In this episode, we sit down with Matt Crowley to talk about how competition, roasting, and green coffee buying shapes great coffee at scale. Matt's path into coffee wasn't obvious. He actually hated coffee at first. What began as an entry-level job turned into a deep obsession with tasting, cupping, and understanding how decisions made at origin, on the roaster, and in competition show up in the final cup. We explore what it's like roasting coffee for multiple World Barista Champions, how feedback from the competition stage sharpens roasting decisions, and how those insights translate into consistent, high-quality coffee across multiple locations. The conversation spans cupping, roasting philosophy, green coffee buying, and coaching, offering a practical look at how high-level tasting connects to real-world coffee business. So let's get into our conversation with Matt Crowley. Welcome to By the Drip, the channel about the people behind the coffee and the passion that fuels it. We're two brothers who have spent our lives chasing something deeper than just great coffee. From walking farms in remote corners of the world to training and coaching multiple World Barista Champions. I'm David Crosby, founder of ROSSO COFFEE ROASTERS, the roasters behind back-to-back World Champion wins. And I'm with my brother, Cole Terode, founder of Forward Coffee, sourcing some of the most inspiring coffees from Panama and building lasting relationships at origin. This isn't just a channel about coffee, it's about community, obsession, and the pursuit of excellence. One cup, one story, one coffee at a time. Got the rock music there in the background?
You can hear that.
Is that the cafe? Or is that the roastery?
It's the roastery team. Do you need me to get them to turn it down? I can get them to turn it down. Hey boys, so could you turn the music down? Sorry, it's coming through. I'm just doing a recording.
What a great manager. Matt Crowley, buddy, that might be the worst background I've ever seen. Are you in prison? You might be the hardest guy to get on the podcast too.
Sorry about that. I've been going through the wars, so yes, it may as well be a prison. This is the roastery. I think everyone thinks that every coffee roastery is going to be this beautiful, glamorous thing, but no, it is a factory. So this is one of our offices, and it's the only space I can go that isn't incredibly noisy or full of people right now. So,
well, describe. People are watching, but they're also listening. Describe this room.
Well, it is where we stick payroll and our operations manager. It's like the last little corner. It's like, as you can see, it's literally,
okay. It's not as bad as you were. It looks worse than it actually is.
Yeah, we've got the couch, for little naps as well.
Okay, Matt, that might be the weirdest intro we've done. Thanks for taking the time joining us. I want to go back to the very start. We always start, how did you get into specialty coffee? When was it? What's your origin story? Talk to me, buddy.
So for me, I actually started in a thing called Hudson's Coffee. I think they're still around. Definitely not specialty. It's kind of like, it was kind of like a Starbucks, because we have this thing called Gloria Jean's, and I think there was Michelle's at the time. So it was kind of like Starbucks, and it got its name from the Hudson River when the owner went over to America, and he saw how Americans were doing, and he came back. So this company was, I started there when I was 18, so 2 years ago. No. So almost, I'm turning 39 in 3 days, so almost 19 years ago. No, almost 20 years ago. 19, yeah. And I didn't actually want to work in coffee. I hated coffee. I didn't drink it. When I was 6 years old, I found one of these little Copico lollies in my parents' car, and I ate it. And I'm like, well, this is disgusting, and I threw up. So from that moment on, I'm like, well, I hate coffee, so I never drank it. So I came from a fast food hospitality thing. I finished there when I was 18. I was meant to go to university, but I found this, so I'm like, I need a job. So I got a job very close to the university, and I applied for this cafe. Initially, I just wanted to be a till person, servy, make money. But there was actually a really cool team that worked there, and they were really into coffee. And it was a really busy store. It used to do 20 kilos a day, so it was so busy. And I'm like, why is everyone lining up for this brown swill that I hate so much? And then when I connected with a barista there who was like really passionate, I quickly learned, I'm like, oh, it's not I hate coffee. It's the coffee that I've had, or the experiences with coffee I've had have always been bad. So I showed enough enthusiasm and, worked 3 months, and then they started teaching me to make coffee. And then, it was super simple, like, we do 20 grams, whether it's 22 grams, but no weighing or anything, it's an estimate. And then you just start learning those little nuances like this and the 30 seconds or 26 seconds versus this, and, what they used to weigh the milk and all that sort of stuff. So they had systems. And someone with a brain like mine, like in the roastery, is like, oh, I love systems. Systems are great. So that helped me like get into it and connect with it. So I think I've always had a pretty good palate. So I'm like, and it was getting better. So we all have that starting point where, oh, this is good until you have your first Ethiopian natural or whatever, and then you're like, oh, okay, sorry, this isn't good. But so they made me a barista, and I worked as sort of a barista for 3 months. And Hudson's being a chain, like it was a chain franchisee sort of thing. They're like, oh, who wants to compete in a competition? And it was like us versus another chain versus another chain. And I'm like, me? I'll do it. Because it's like, oh, well, I'm learning. That just means I get more time to learn. So went into this competition. It was terrible, like as in nowhere near enough skill. But like the amount of learning and we came dead last. We put ground up lolly bananas. It was horrible. But it was like the experience, the excitement, the energy. And then I got to meet a lot of people in the industry. So I think that's the thing. If you're stuck working in one cafe, you don't really connect. Started connecting with people, started connecting with a few more people. Then they did a competition each year. So the next year they did the same competition. But actually my now boss and good friend, Dave Macon and Zoe Delaney, Zoe was competing in the competition for Michelle's. Dave was the MC. So we sort of met really, really briefly then.
Okay.
And connected. So like, we sort of all you lightly stayed friends because they were just so much more senior than I was, and I still had so much learning to do. So after about a year or so in the cafe, a management role came up. So I started managing one of the Hudsons. And then I was there. Dave did a few training courses, for Hudson's. I keep almost saying Axil. Hudson's, and then I actually competed for my first time in the proper Australian Barista Championships. So I did some training with Dave. I started in Brisbane, not in Melbourne. Brisbane's, for those who don't know, a little further up, sort of in the middle of Australia. So subtropical climate, a lot hotter, and then flew down to Melbourne, to the chilly big city, the big smoke, and did training with Dave. And I was in that same position as I imagine a lot of barista competitors are in. It's like, oh, this is now hard. So I'm like, oh, this is scary. This is hard. I think I tried to pull out like every second day. I was like, I'm not doing it. I'm not good enough. I'm not this. But I, hitched my pants up and I did it. And as soon as I did that first actual Australian championship, doors opened. So a lot of people, come work for us. There was a company called Brother Espresso, which I think was the coolest company in Brisbane at the time. Oh, in my opinion, personally, I thought it was one of the coolest coffee shops in Brisbane at the time.
What year is this? Like 2007?
In 2008.
Somewhere around there. Okay.
Yeah, around then. So a long time ago. But yeah, so it's like I kind of had this little fork in the road moment where I'm like, do I leave the people that have been supporting me a lot, but it's a big company and a big sort of very, very corporate, or do I follow the cool path? It's like, and it's so, as I mentioned before, someone who's very, very systems orientated, I'm like, well, I like this, and it's like getting there and, what's my career path here and what's this? Because especially back then, I didn't think, you were still getting that poo-poo of, oh, sorry, you work in coffee. It's like, so even if I was, you're a barista or this or that, it's like, it wasn't looked upon as this is going to be a career path for your entire life. And even in the back of my mind, I kind of knew it wasn't. So it's like, I guess I was thinking about hospitality management or upper management. so I stuck with Hudson's, and then my store closed because, the specialty coffee movement was starting, particularly around like that sort of 2008, 2009. So Hudson's was pulling back. So my store was one of the first ones. It was a bit quiet and it went. So they were like, they didn't want to lose me. So I moved into the national trainer role. So my title, I think at 20 or 21, was the national trainer for Emirates Leisure Retail Australia, because Emirates had acquired Hudson's at that point. And it was a mouthful, and I was definitely too young and inexperienced for the role, because as much as I love systems, being in a corporate office environment wasn't quite for me. So I stuck it out for a year, and in that time I had to fly constantly to Melbourne, and I was frequently interacting with Dave and Zoe, and doing training, like how can I train people better? How can I, because I had to do train the trainer role and all this sort of stuff. So like learning to teach people in an effective way was essentially my role, which, I'm kind of just having the realization now that it's like, I do like teaching people, but maybe that's where the coaching aspect has come from in a lot of ways. It's like, oh, okay. And then from that point, I didn't enjoy the role. They wanted me to move to Melbourne. I wasn't ready to move to Melbourne. And then, quit and just started working in a cafe in Brisbane for 2 months. And 2 months later, I actually met someone who I moved to Melbourne for 6 months later, and just took a job as a barista. So at that point I was kind of ready to get out of coffee, because I was like, I've done the barista thing. I don't want to do the barista thing again. I've been to the sort of upper management role. That didn't suit. The barista thing wasn't quite suiting. So now it's around 2011. I moved to Melbourne, and I had my first real super taste of specialty coffee, like working behind the bar and stuff like that. So I'm like, and I met a guy, his name was Charles. He worked for Duke's. He was the supplier for the cafe I was working at. Lovely guy. And he was just sharing all this information, and I was like, I want to be on that side of it. I want to get to the, not necessarily the sales, but I want to be closer to this, because that's where that's my next phase of learning. I'm sure I'll learn more in the cafe, but I wanted to get there. So I'd already had 6 or 7 years of coffee experience at this point. And I actually bumped into Dave. Ironically, the person who I was partnered with, she was still working for Hudson, so she competed in a competition, and Dave was the MC, and I was coaching her, my first coaching gig. And then Dave's like, "What are you doing here?" And I'm like, It's like, I don't even know. I'm just floating
Does
around.
Axil exist at this point?
Yeah, Axil had just opened its actual cafe. It was roasting, but Axil was in its first year. So I think that was 2011 or 2012 by this point. And he's like, well, come in for an interview. Let's go. And I got there, and I was I had the interview, and Dave's like, what do you want to do? I'm like, I want to roast. I think that's what I want to get to the roasting side or that side of it. And he's like, we don't have anything available, unfortunately. But, do you want to do a barista thing? I'm like, well, no. In the same, when I was in that same sort of fork in the road, I'm like, well, if I'm doing the barista thing here, I'm doing it here. It's like, it's kind of the same thing. So I've already started here, and if it's not going to change, I'm not going to change. I'll figure out the next step rather than just creating a little bit of chaos in my life. Then a week or two later, maybe even less than a week, I think Dave was on his honeymoon with Zoe. Dave and Zoe were on the honeymoon in Costa Rica, where they combined a buying trip with a honeymoon. Business savvy sort of behavior. And he called me, and he was like, a position has just become available in the roastery. So I'm not sure if people are familiar with Axil's history, but Matt Perger used to work for Axil, so he was one of the roasters, and also Matthew Lewin. So he was working there. So 2 other Australian Barista Champions. Eventually, Matt Perger Matt Lewin would eventually become. So there was a lot of pedigree in the roastery already, and Matt moved on, and I moved in. So we kind of made the joke, you can't work in the Axil roastery unless your name is Matt. So yeah, squeezed in, got in. I was doing 1 or 2 days in the roastery, cleaning tins, stickers on bags, and doing 3 days on the bar as a barista. So I was learning the Axil way, and also just finding my feet in the roastery and learning to cup. So I think for the first the first 3 months of working at the roastery, Zoe Delaney was teaching me to roast, so she was the head roaster at the time. Well, I was just cupping and I didn't say anything. Like, you do that first little, and everyone's like, peaches and this. You're like, okay, sure. Like, it's like, but like establishing that palate, which I think is a challenge for a lot of people, the cupping. And so I think now it's a little better because there's so many more people drink filter. And in Australia, we weren't a big filter culture at the time. And a lot of people cup in their own time. But for me, I was like, so I just sat down, shut up, listened to what everyone was saying, taking as much in as I could. And then there was the day that it just sort of clicked. And then I was connected to the cupping bowl. Then I became more connected to the roaster and the roaster profile. So the same thing, the 20 grams in, 30 grams out, the 8 minutes versus the 12, the development times, this, but we're still very basic.
Okay, Matt, I got to stop you because you're going to keep going. No, great. I didn't know any of that. So that's all super interesting. Let's talk about the cupping thing. Someone's listening. They want to understand how to taste better. What are some pieces of knowledge, if you can think back to your very beginning, of what can they do? Or instead of cupping, they're tasting coffee at home. How can they make those associations? And what are some tips that you would give them to like level up their ability to taste?
Well, I think the first thing is actually make sure you're going in blind. Because I think everyone's so scared that they're going to get something wrong. That they're like, they might be a little bit embarrassed. They taste and they're like quickly checking if it's a natural or something like that. It's like going in blind. And 3 notes. I think it's like just like, like comment on the acidity, if you can't find a flavor note, just comment on, the acidity is high, the sweetness was this, or where it hit your tongue. It's like what it is you're experiencing, just write a little bit down and then finish your cupping before you actually look. So start small, don't go 20 bowls at once, start with 6, start with 8, have a variety, of natural washed honeys. Because, you don't need to go straight to the anaerobics because they're super obvious and they didn't exist when I started cupping. But it's like, once you then reveal, it's like, that's the washed and these are the characteristics I found in the washed and that's a natural and that's that. And when you get on that first level, your brain creates that connection. It's like, those are the characteristics of a washed. And then you can kind of focus on something else. It's like the nuances of the fruit. It's like, that's a washed. And then it's getting me this peachy note or this note or that note. And also listening to what other people experience as well, because what you perceive as peach might be perceived by someone else as, nectarine or pear. That's a pretty big jump. But because we all perceive things differently. So you kind of know I perceive it as this, but someone else perceives it as that. So it's like, it's peach or this. So yeah, I think just taking note of the differences first before trying. It's like, I feel like people try and win. That's that's a Pakmara, that's this. It's like, who cares about the varietal right now? It's like, it's just what are you experiencing in the cup, and being able to actually like take actionable notes from it. It's like, it doesn't matter if it's especially for us as roasters and we're selling. It's like, yes, it's a what, like we know, like it says it on the bag, we know what it all is, but it's like what's actually happening in the cup. And then the next step I would be like, is only cup washed. Cup a washed Guatemalan, a washed Kenyan, a washed Ethiopian, a washed Colombian, a washed El Salvadorian, and really focusing on the nuances between, it's all processed in a very similar way, but what's creating this variety, particularly with wash because it's a lot more consistent. And then naturals, it's like, why is this natural like this? Why is this natural like this? It's like, and then start getting the data. It's like the drying time, Brazil's drying 10 days, Costa Rican's drying 30s. And so what is that drying time doing to it? What is the altitude? So and so you've got your base of nuances and you've got your base of flavors, and it's just like getting more complex on what's actually making the difference. So now you've got a table full of geishas and you cup them. And the thing I think is like, well, that one tastes like it's 5 years old. Like, you can actually taste like this tree. Is this a young geisha tree? They're like, yeah.
I see. Sorry. I thought you meant like it was aged 5 years. Okay, yeah.
No. Well, sometimes in Australia, we're very far away. But you can take you can taste like, this tree is only first or second harvest, where this one's clearly a much more established tree. It's like, because it's got more depth and quality of flavor. So that's the cupping side of it for the coffee, but also roasting. I didn't even talk about the roasting. That's purely talking about like sample cupping, but then also tasting the same coffee as a dark roast, medium roast, light roast, and getting used to the roast influence as well. You probably should do that sooner. But I think breaking it down into actual focus things, because, yeah, cupping for fun is great, but the learning side of it is, okay, what am I focusing on today? I'm focusing on the differences between washed. I'm focusing on the difference between roast profile. When you try and do everything at the same time, well, you will learn, but it just takes a very long time, right?
Are you guys cupping, when you're cupping now, are you guys using a scoring system, or are you doing the new protocol?
I haven't gotten into the new protocol just yet. Dave was very adamant, like when we were all learning together, we used to just use the old COE sheet. So, because there was 10 coffees on the page at once, as opposed to, particularly when we're like sourcing coffee, as opposed to like, it was a little bit more like when it was production, we've got the coffee, it's just like, let's focusing on what we're doing to it, not all the tasting notes that we're experiencing and stuff like that, because two different purposes. But with the COE sheet, it's, acidity, acidity, sweetness, body, I think flavor, overall balance, and those sorts of things. But I think we did it because there was 10 on the page, and when you're cupping 50 coffee, like the SCA sheet is like one.
Yeah.
Like it was quite arduous. So I kind of have that thought in my mind of like, oh, if these are all sixes, it's an 84. So if the acids are, this is the quality of the acids more like a 5 or a 4, it's like 80 or 82, and it's like, so I started getting used to that. It's like this, but eventually I kind of get to a point where I'm like, well, that's an 87, but it's like, but in my head I go, well, why is it not 100? It's like, okay, well, the reason it's not 100 is because the acid structure's a little this, it's a little sour, it's a little green, the sweetness is lacking, the cleanliness of the cup, it's a little bit dirty, it's a little bit muddled. So rather than, I start with, this is a perfect coffee, but why is it not perfect? So I've always kind of had that come back from perfect, which is kind of the same tie into judging and judging for barista comp. It's like, it's a 6 until it's not. So you should be going in going, they're going to give you a perfect coffee, and you've got to justify why it's not perfect, not the other way around. It's so, and that's how people learn. It's like, what's missing, like, because that's the feedback people want. It's like, why, like, what would I do to make it better? It's like, so yeah, now, particularly when cupping, I think when I've cupped with you at Origin and stuff, it's just a notebook. It's like, writing down what's there, what's missing, what I'm going to do with it, like what's the action for this coffee. Blend, single origin, filter, microlot, high-end microlot, and then a scoring point. Because, yeah, the score kind of becomes irrelevant. It's like, it's do you want it or not, right? I want to buy this coffee. The score is really, it's like, how much am I prepared to pay for it, sort of thing. It's like, did that answer the question?
Yeah. Let's go back to your coffee career. So you've just moved to Axil. You're roasting kind of 1-2 days a week. You're still, you're on the bar, barista front of house. How do you make that transition? Did you know right away when you were getting on the roaster, like, this is for me? I love looking at spreadsheets. I love looking at roast curves. I love the nuance of the end temp versus the development versus...
Yeah, exactly. Because the same thing as we go back, the systems, it's like, there's a system, there's a curve, there's actual change. Even though I guess it's not as quick as I drop my dose from 18 grams to 22 grams. Look at this massive difference. It's like, wow, that 10 seconds longer at the end, just gave it that little bit more of a rich sweetness. This gave it, that faster roast time. The body's gone down a bit, but the clarity in the cup has increased and stuff like that. And we weren't jumping around like crazy. Like, obviously, every roast, and this is the thing, roasteries have customers, and customers expect consistency. So you couldn't always, and also green coffee costs money, so you can't, just waste it constantly. I don't think we had a super good sample roaster at this point. Okay. So it was like, I couldn't do the small things, but it's like, dialing into that. And when we talk about the cupping, it's like, I have my nuance base, I see the intricacies of the flavor, I see the roast influence. So those tiny little things were having actual consequences to the cupping bowl. And they just became clearer and clearer and clearer over time. So yeah, I loved it. And it was, and then also still working on the bar, it's like, that does that to the cupping bowl, which does that to the espresso machine. And I think that's a very important part of, we're Axil as a whole it's a roastery, but it had its own cafe at the time. We now have 18 cafes. We just opened one in Sydney, but it's like what we roast, I taste as espresso, not just made by World Champions. It's made by everyday baristas. We have wholesale accounts. We have 100 wholesale accounts. So you're tasting how that's affecting like on their machine, and like so it's not just it's different coffee machines, it's different water, it's different cafes, it's different baristas. So you kind of seeing creating the cupping bowl goes to here, and this tastes like that as a final product. So that whole circle I think was really important to my learning process. And I think there are some roasteries that people that just roast and they don't have a cafe, they don't have a storefront. It's like, so then there is a little bit of feedback. Yeah, they might be pulling shots in their own cafe or that like on their own little espresso machine, but what's actually happening out there in the real world as well. So I think that's been a very important part of my palate development and my connection to all aspects of the coffee. And we've been speaking black, but also what does this do in milk? You know, this goes here, the texture it creates tastes like that as a black, and that's where it tastes as a milk-based coffee as well, which is super important for us because 95% of everything drunk in Australia is milk-based.
Wow, it's still that high?
I would think so. I would think like look. So I'm throwing numbers out in the air, but it is extremely high. Like I'm sure if we pull up our sales data from any of our stores, it'll be cappuccinos, lattes, flat whites are the primary seller across iced lattes and things like that as well. But
so how long did you just roast for before you became Axil's green coffee buyer? What's your progression? Let's keep going on your career progression here, Matty.
Yeah, so I think I'd have to check. I think I started roasting in either 2011, 2012, very short-term roast, and then I became more full-time roasting. Zoe took a step back because she had a team around her that was able to manage that. And so I can't remember which came first, but at some point or another, the other Matt and I became dual managers of the roastery. So we were taking care of more of the day-to-day. Zoe was still floating in and out and like checking and cupping profiles, sort of in a position that I'm in now, which is overseeing. Then Dave came to me out of the blue and he's like, you want to go to Brazil? And I'm like, yeah, like what, Carnival? And he's like no. I'm like, oh, sure. We're going on a green buying trip. So we're going to take a wholesale account. And yeah, I think at first, I don't know if the initial plan was you are going to take over green buying. It was, you've worked for us for 3 years. You're doing a great job. Here's your origin experience, which I think a lot of roasteries do. I know you guys do it. Rosso, I've met many of your team abroad. And yeah, we went to go. And then unfortunately, there was a family emergency for Dave. And the day before we were meant to leave for Brazil, he couldn't go. So I'd never been to Latin America. I speak no Portuguese. And yeah, he's like, okay, you're going with this wholesale account, and bye. All of a sudden I'm given an itinerary and away we go. So we went to Sao Paulo and we got picked up, and I think on this trip we went to Bourbon. Okay. And it was very much the tour thing, you know, where you go into a lot of, we saw a lot of people, but they're like, so who's the buying authority? I'm like, what? Like, what do you mean? Like, I'm like, what do we decide what we get? Or so we're just cupping through it. I'm like, the notes that I took were so extensive for every cup, like every blender, everything. Cause I'm just like, just write it all down. And I had also, it was a great experience, but I don't think Dave got there until 8 or 9 days later. So yeah, it was just meeting people and connecting with people and chatting, but it's like, I had no buying authority. I had no thing. So yeah, we just went through and cupped and tried stuff. So the next year, Dave's like, "Oh, let's go back to Brazil," and something else came up again. So yeah, I think on that first trip though, we went to COE in Londrina, and I met Jacques and Luis from Carmo. Where I think it's just Luis now. I met Luis Saldana from Capricornio. He was formerly working like with Fazenda California. I met Thiago from Bourbon. I think he's with Azito. And like I met so many people on that trip that we've bought from and stuff. So it was like, I think that's the other thing about origin trips. You connect with people. So if you're open to those connections, it's like there's people who I still work with in some way, shape, or form, but you always have those connections to reach out to. And then, yeah, the next trip, which was sort of back to Poços de Caldas and stuff like that. Yeah, Dave was meant to come, didn't come. And I think after that and doing the first one, and think Dave was just kind of like, why don't you take over? Brazil. It's like, you do Brazil. And then the other Matt, he had Colombia. Yeah, so he was doing the Colombian side of it. Then I went to Central America on another trip. So Costa Rica, Guatemala, and El Salvador. No, Costa Rica, Guatemala. And then they became my origins. And then at some point or another, I think Matt was like, I'm not enjoying the travel. So I just took over the whole thing. So that's kind of where the green buyer came in. So it was roaster green buyer. And yeah, so it was nice. Like, it kind of like the difference. And then you see the difference. Wow, Brazil to Costa Rica, you know, massive farms to these tiny little micro mills. And then El Salvador that are big farms, but still sort of smaller mills. So they've kind of got that like half Brazil, half central thing. And then Guatemala, which is kind of similar, but like, yeah, just tasting all those different nuances between the coffee. And I think the biggest thing was also like, why does everything taste green? You know, I think that's the first step you make when you're like, what we get here, what we were getting here and what we're cupping here is like, and then you get there, it's like, why does everything taste really, really green? So then that's another nuance.
Maybe explain what that means, because if someone's listening, they've never traveled to origin, they don't know what that means.
Yeah, so coffee that's come off, you know, has been picked 6 weeks ago and has been drying for 20, 30 days and has just recently come off the patio, and maybe it's been sitting in storage for 2 weeks, 3 weeks, and they've just hulled it. They've just taken it out of the parchment because it's still sitting in its parchment or its skin, and then they roast it and serve it to you. So this is like as fresh as it gets, and that freshness, which will settle down, is quite often it sits at the back of your palate or around the sides. It's green, like green. It can be really strong, like green tea when it's very fresh, or it's just this. It almost feels like, oh, this coffee's got a vegetal quality to it. But you have to learn that what you taste there, 3 months later when it finally, or 4 months later when it finally gets to Australia, it's no longer there. So that was just another nuance layer I had to add to my sort of cupping palate, that it's like, this will taste like this when it arrives, or something that tastes extremely fruity and intense that's 3 days off, you know, the patio. There's a chance that might go like this, or it might get better. So it's like learning to approach every cupping with a sense of, okay, write the extensive notes for what you want to buy, and when it arrives, write the extensive notes so you can start filling up your data bank with this. When this happens, quite often you see this as a result. So it's just another level of experience and data to add to being a green buyer. I know I met Sebastian from Phil and Sebastian on, I think, my first trip to Guatemala. Lovely man. You know, another Canadian roasting company. And he was sitting there at the back and he had his little moisture meter. He's getting all the green. And I've just finished cupping in Bay Vista, where we've cut before, and he's like getting all the green and he's measuring it, and I've finished my cupping. I'm just cracking a beer. I'm like, what are you doing? And he's like, well, when this, you know, this water thing, the water activity is like here, so when it gets over here, it's going to be like this. And I'm just like, okay, sort of. But I went in the back of my mind and I did a bit of research on water activity, and, you know, the higher the water activity, the more chance of change we're going to see. And yeah, so just keep filling up the data banks, right? So let me drill down on a few things. A lot of people, they listen. A lot of baristas want to become green coffee buyers. That's kind of a route. That's my goal, right? Yeah, for a lot of people, it is. For some people, yeah. And I always ask green coffee buyers when they come on, how do you make your journey is a little bit more unique, but how do you convince your boss or the people in charge that like that's the role for you? And how do you develop? You kind of talked about some of the skills like through cupping, but what skills do you need? And then how do you present yourself to, you know, get that promotion to be a green coffee buyer? I think for a lot of people, like cupping is one thing. I mean, you know, you can cup and you can taste nuances and everything, great. But there's a whole. It does depend on the size of your business as well. So if you're a very small roastery, or you have a lot of buying power, like Axil does now, and I assume Rosso as well, understanding like the C market in itself, it's like the fluctuations, and then, you know, oh, this coffee tastes like this. It's like, what's its price point? So it's like this plus the diff. It's like, this is kind of what you get in that zone. It's like understanding a little bit more of actually like the buying side of it, because, you know, it's not just, oh, this coffee tastes good, I'm going to buy it. It's forecasting, it's you know, planning, it's understanding how things blend together as well. Like, you know, practicing, if I have a washed Colombian and a natural Ethiopian, it's like, what does it do? I personally don't think those coffees go super well together as a blend without a Brazil base, but it's like, you know, Brazil and this, what does that do? It's like, that's another way to look at it. Yeah, I would say it's more than just, I taste good. I'm a great taster. I understand the market intrinsically, which I started as a taster and I had to learn so much about the market, but, you know, watching fluctuations and understanding what's actually happening in the market behind the scenes, you know, whether it's droughts and stuff, and the impact that has on price points, which is, how is that having an impact on budgets and things like that? Because I have to budget, I have to forecast, I have to watch the C market constantly to buy, to ensure that we don't get stuck with coffee that is, you know, at the highest point, and then have to pass that on to our customers, because it's also, what do your customers want, understanding what other people want. Because if I just bought all the coffees that I wanted, Axil wouldn't be what it is. We have a million people who, some people love Brazil, some people love Colombia, some people love this. So it's being, think about it as a business. It's like, what do my customers want? What does my boss want? How can I apply the skills of tasting to a practical, you know, return on investment for the boss? It's like, I think I can help us save money by working with these producers to get, you know, a consistent product. And, you know, it's networking. You have to network with people and like build long-term relationships where it's like, people will look after you. It's like, yeah, the C market's going like this, but if we're constantly buying at a higher price point and making arrangements, and, you know, if we pay a high price this year, it fluctuates, will you look after me and will I look after you? There's quite a few different aspects to it. So I think,
how's it been in Australia, kind of on a macro level, with the C market kind of hitting all-time highs this year? We've seen anywhere from 325 or 350 is the low, all the way to 440, I believe, is the high.
Well, also, yeah, we've got the double-edged sword, which you have in Canada as well. We had a bad US dollar, so the C price is hitting highs and the AUD was going lower. So I think it's for every 10 cents, no, every 5 cents on the USD, it's like 2.23, and almost adds like 70 cents per kilo to coffee. Yeah, like it stacks up so quickly. So I think the good thing, and that's the thing with the forecasting, is I managed to forecast out as it was going up. I'm like, Dave, I don't think this isn't going to do this. So it's like, we hit, I think, like 320, and we locked in a huge amount of coffee. Everyone held their contracts. No one reneged on their contracts for us, which is lovely, because when it got high, a lot of people were defaulting on contracts. Which is, again, the same thing you say. You have a relationship with someone, they'll look after you, because when it goes down, we look after, like, we keep our price point for quality at a higher point. So yeah, it was bad, but the experience that I built up beforehand allowed me to ride the wave. So I think when coffee prices were hitting that $17, $18 a kilo point, we were still a bit lower than that, but it's been difficult. It's not difficult for micro lots because we pay more, you pay more. Like, you're paying for the price. But in Australia, when we're still paying $5 Australian for a cup of coffee, so what's that? $3.50, $3.30 US for all specialty, like 83 to 85 point blenders. You know, maybe 50 cents more for a coffee that costs $22 a kilo or something like that. We can't move much, so it did get very difficult. I think we've ridden the wave really well, but I know a lot of people struggled who can't commit to huge amounts of coffee in the long term, and they're just they're just going up and up and up, and it's been super difficult for their bottom line.
Tough on them, yeah.
Sure.
Let's talk a little Go ahead. Go ahead.
And then right now I think the AUD is better, but that was the other problem. Even if the C price didn't move and the AUD went down, we're still paying, 36% on top of the already kilo price.
Let's talk a little bit about your roasting philosophy before we get into comp, because comp's going to take over here. Mm-hmm. Talk to me. What do you do? What's your theories? I need to drop some knowledge here.
I guess we break down in we have our blends, we have our blends, and then we have our micro lots, and then filter, and then our signature series coffee, the high end stuff. Dave's always been on my back because he drinks milk coffees every day. I'm not a huge milk drinker, but it's like body. So when we're choosing coffees for blends, body and sweetness, it's like we're always thinking, if there's 10 Brazils on the table, it's like which one has the most body. So sourcing and then trying to bring that body out. And then, if it's a Colombian, we're looking for a Colombian with body. If it's Ethiopian, they usually are the smaller parts. So the roasting and blending that's my start coffee, which is the Ethiopian or the Colombian or whatever. Usually the centrals are my smoothing base and Brazils are my body. So then just getting them to work together because the solubility. So we treat, obviously, the Brazils very different to the washed coffees, but just trying to find something in the cup that's, that's got great body, that's got great sweetness. How we get there, we're currently roasting on a GG 120.
Okay, a big boy.
Yeah. Yeah, and then for our darker roast, we don't go super darker, we kind of just make the roast longer. So we have 3 blends: palate, which is our natural blend, seasonal, which is our house blend we use everywhere, and heavyweight. So heavyweight is our dark blend, but we don't really go darker. We just go similar coffees, but longer. So like 18, 19 minute roast profile, keeping seasonal around 15, 16 minute, and palates around 14 and a half, with like 20 to 22 to 23% development sort of thing.
Lower charge temp too.
We can't at the moment because the GG 120 needs too much gas and there's not enough gas in this building. So we're going to move the roastery hopefully sometime in the future. So we do have to drop hot, but we get no scorching, no tipping because there's just not enough heat. So, and that's the other thing as well. If you're connected to the flavor of the coffee in the cupping bowl, in this, in that, if you get variation in your roaster but you know how to get that final product, you'll find ways around it. It's just, takes a little bit of trial and error, but it's like, even with a long roast or a short roast, you can achieve those things. It's just how you achieve them it's all about this to that to that. It's like you got to figure out what's doing what, and then you can still achieve the same results, I think, from a small roaster to a big roaster.
What about your singles?
Singles, I keep 10 to 12 minutes, ideally 11 minutes, usually around. So I kind of throw development percentage out the window. I think more about time. So from the point that it cracks to the point that it finishes is usually around somewhere from 1:55 to sort of 2 minutes 30, and it depends. So like a Brazil natural, if it's one of those super fruity naturals, it might be a super short 1:55 development with a lot of climb. Ethiopian washed, slightly longer development with less temperature rates. Because there's always sweetness and body. When we go to the filter, it's like shortening it down, looking for clarity and acidity. Yeah, 90% of espresso drinkers, we don't do a lot of filter comparatively. What do you want your espresso to taste like? You want it to be sweet. You don't want it to be roasty. Like you want it juicy as well, maintaining that juicy acidity for our wash. But staying in that window, I think, has gotten us the best results. And usually, it's just reacting to the coffee. It's like, this coffee doesn't like that. Bring it a little shorter, bring it a little hotter, bring out the juice in it. It's like, this coffee's a little bit flat when we do it the style that we do for washed Ethiopians. Let's shorten it up. Let's make it a little hotter. Let's open it up a bit quicker. But it's always sitting within those parameters. 1:55 shortest for espresso, 2 minutes 30 longest.
And you're doing that on the same roaster? Or you have a...
No, oh God, no. We have a UG 22.
Okay.
So the first roaster I learned to roast on, the UG 22, we call it Greg. We have 2. One of them is decommissioned at the moment, and we have recommissioned it. So my entire life of my entire roasting experience has been on a Probat. We had a Monado bath for a short period, a 60 kilo, but then when we upgraded back to the GG 120, it is, I enjoy Probat because the profile that works on a small one works on a bigger one. It's like, it's very connected. But I feel like I can jump on any roaster with that same connection we talked about and achieve the result I'm looking for. But yeah, I've learnt on Probats my whole life.
Okay, you've roasted also a couple World Barista Champions coffees. What is the theory on Panama Geishas, these comp coffees? Give us a breakdown on that.
Particularly for coffees like those, like as soon as we kind of jumped to the higher end lots, my theory is, and I didn't mention GG 120, we're dropping 100 kilos at a time, so that 80%. The UG 22, we're doing 15 kilo drops. And when I get to a more nuanced coffee, I actually drop it quite considerably. So I go from 15 down to 6 kilos or 5 kilos. Enough to hold the heat in the coffee, but enough to like move very, very quickly in the roast without scorching or tipping. So, and I find that amount, you get the speed, it's absorbing the heat, but it cracks at a much lower temperature. I get very little roast influence. I get very little, I don't get any scorching or tipping, but it's much, much faster. So I can, if I want to do it in 6 minutes, I can. If I want to do it in 8, I can. I could do it in 4 minutes if I want. But there you get much more clarity, much more crispness, and really, really short. And I can still hold like a reasonable development depending on what I want to do with it. So even if I do a 2-minute development and these 6 kilo drops, because so much air and heat is passing through the coffee and it's not holding it all, that's where I get more of these competition profiles where I get body and texture and sweetness, but I don't lose that delicate acidity. I don't lose those intricacies in the coffee, where if I did that at a 15 kilo drop, you get much more like round, sort of rich flavors, much more traditional espresso style. So, and the way that was developed was I had a 1 kilo roaster, which we dialed in profiles for, but we didn't have enough consistency for the barista competitor. Oh, here's 800 grams. It's like, oh, do that again. I'm like, okay, I'll try. But it's like, so finding profiles there and then adapting that on the UG22. And also the same thing with the stronghold. Profiling on the stronghold, dialing it in, getting it to where we want. Like, you can't just drop 6 kilos of $500 a kilo coffee and just be like, let's see what happens. It's connect with the coffee, figure out what it's like, find similar coffees, practice a roast, dial it in on the stronghold, make sure the barista's happy with it, and then replicate it on the UG22, which again goes back to that roaster, cupping bowl, espresso. It's kind of all intrinsically connected. It's like, and it just all happens up here very, very quickly. But yeah, I think because when we've tried so many coffees, you kind of know which ones will do certain things even before you have roasted them. And then it's just those little nuancy bits for the barista competitor.
How many roasts will you do? I kind of asked Jack, I had him on last week, and I was saying, how many roasts does Matt get out of the coffee that Jack used this year from Deborah? Did you do 2 roasts? Did you do 5?
As in for the ones that he took, or
just in general? Like, are you buying a 50 kilo lot and then you're getting 7-8 roasts out of it, or?
In this particular instance, we did do. So I think when we did nationals, we started with 3. So I think we had 30 or 25 kilos of each coffee. And we dialed them all, and then we dialed them all on little ones. This is where we're going with, and we roasted. So I think Jack had 2 roasts of the Ether and 2, which is the washed Panama Geisha, and 2 roasts of the Nirvana to trial for finals. So 12 kilos, so 2 6 kilo drops, yielding around 10 kilos. So that was a lot for that competition, but that's the style that he likes to use, because we didn't have, what's the word I'm looking for? Semi-finals, finals. It was just finals, straight shot through, winner takes all. But yeah, for the Worlds, he had 3 options for espresso, and he had 2 roasts of each. And he didn't take them all, but that's how many options he had. So by the time we were preparing for Worlds, we were like gearing up, but we were in a position where with Axil, anything we roasted was going to be sold through, sold or served through our own systems. So yeah, he had 3 options.
You
for
hedge
espresso.
the risk that way. That's
Yeah,
what's nice.
because but when you're a bit smaller, it's like
It's tough.
you know, it is hard to sell these coffees, especially in Australia. It's hard to sell these coffees, and take a lot of time, and you know, you've got to put all that money out first and get it back. So we are very lucky. We don't take that for granted that we're in a position that some people aren't. But for anyone that is doing it, I would recommend, especially if you are roasting on a bigger roaster, minimum 20 kilos, because you need your dial-in coffee, you need your practice coffee, and then you need your on-stage coffee for 3 days. So and it depends on the grinder that we end up using for the next competition. With the Mythos, you need like a minimum of 700 grams. Like, there are other ways we could have been around, but we had a minimum of 700 grams to have the weight for consistency. Dials in, has the shots, that 500 grams comes out, that goes for sale, in goes the next one to make sure. So that's what my recommendation would be. If you don't have 20 kilos of it, don't get it. Because I think I saw some competitors with like, oh, I've got 1 kilo, I've got 2 kilos, I've got 600 grams. And I'm like 600 grams? What are we? How are you even going to get connected to that coffee? So that was espresso, and then milk was 2 coffees, and same thing, 2 coffees, 2 roasts. And that was more about freshness. So we had one that was 18 days old, and I think one that was, by the first stage of finals, I think it was 9, 10, it was going to be like 10, 11, 12 days old, and the other one was going to be like 18, 19, 20 days old. So just timing them out. Because you didn't have as much, obviously you're adding milk to it, so you don't have as much variation, but it was like, we're getting sourness in the cup and that sort of stuff. Yeah, I hope that answers. Sorry, I know I talk a lot.
No, it's great. I'm learning lots. Okay, we got to circle into competition. Mm-hmm. So, Matt, you've been part of the competition scene since the dawn of time here, it sounds like. I forgot you were a competitor, but now you've coached. You guys have been in the finals many times. You now have coached 2 World Barista Champions. Why did you step into the coaching role? And
so the main reason was I wanted to stay connected to coffee. So my original theory was, so I competed from 2008 to sort of 2012. I competed my first year, or even like maybe 2013 might have been my last time having a crack. And I used to just do it all on my own. Like, Hudson's like, yeah, you can do it, but it's like, you know, you just, we'll buy you a coffee and off you go. So I was just doing it. I'm like, I think this is a good idea. You know, one of my signature drinks was, I wanted to emulate first crack. Like the smell when I started roasting, I'm like, I want to emulate first crack for you. So I took I smoked some peaches in the little smoking gun. That was really cool for a little while. I put butter in a jar, and I put the espresso in a jar with a little bit of maple syrup, and you shook it. And then the point was for the judges that when you open it and you smell, that's what I experienced when I smell first crack. That was my theory for the signature drink. When you shake hot liquids in a jar, it pressurizes. So as the judges opened it, it went and popped in their face. No. I'm like, this is a great idea. So that wasn't good. Also, on my finals, when I got the butter, I got salted butter instead of non-salted butter by mistake. So
good man.
It didn't taste good. So yeah, I didn't have a feedback loop. I'm like, this is a great idea, you know, and a lot of competitors have that where they're just like, they get in their little echo chamber and they hear, oh, you're great, everything's great. And yeah, so once I got to this point, I wasn't progressing, and I shaked bits on stage. I love talking and I love being around people, but it's like, once I'm in a weird pressurized environment, I couldn't get over it, or I didn't have the support to get over it. So I'm like, I'm going to judge. I'm going to go judge because I want to know what they're looking for. So I switched to the judging side of it. And then at that point, because I did a few times at Axil, I think a bunch of people, like, I'm going to have a go. So I think one year at Axil, we had 8 people competing. So then I'm like, well, I'll go to the judging side of it, and I'll just be like, well, I kind of think we're looking for this. So because I know what I was missing, so I'm going to give that back to the competitor. It's like, I'll listen, that doesn't sound right. What are you doing? Why are you standing over there? Like, why aren't you talking to me? It's like that feedback moment. I'm like, oh, I'm good at this. And trying to roast for yourself and write and do the speech and getting no feedback, it just wasn't working. So I'm like, well, I can roast for these people. I get their feedback. I go back into my this tastes like that in the chamomile. That's what it tastes like as espresso loop, where I love being, and it was just made sense to me. So I really, really enjoyed it. And then, yeah, hear their story. I'm like, okay, so you want to say this, and it's like, I'm not really understanding that. So then I was like, if you want to say that, maybe say it like this. And then I just switched from competing to coaching. So at first I was roasting for a few people. We did have a few coaches for Anthony and Matt at the time, and he was competing. So I kind of learned a little bit from like the coaching style, but yeah, I was like, I want to be the one that, you know, because when you have two coaches, it can be a little bit of a not enjoyable experience, whereas like one person's trying to do one thing, and that when it's really the competitor who should be the primary focus. And yeah, so then finally got to coach Anthony, which I think was the year before he won was when I first became his like just solo coach, and then the next year he maybe 2 years before. So he was always like chomping around like that second place, and I was always judging the nationals. So I was just like, okay, we didn't win, but that's what won. We didn't win, but that's what won. We didn't win, that's what won. The judges were looking for this, they did like this, they didn't like that. Is it sneaky? No. Yes, maybe. Or is it just research? It's like, how do we get better and better? So, you know, even if you're coming second in Australia, you're still a very good competitor. Like anyone in the top 6 in Australia could do relatively well in the world, particularly in that period where we had Hugh Kelly, Craig Simon, Matt Perger, you know, coming first and second all the time. They're all people of pedigree. So I took all that in, I put it in here, and just tried to give it back as best I could. And it seems to have paid dividends, I guess.
You've done pretty well, eh?
Yeah.
Let's talk about, so with Anthony in the run up to WBC that year, it was in Australia. What was that training camp like for you guys? What's some things you kind of reflect on that went really well or didn't work?
I think the one thing, because so we had Jack Simpson back in the house. He moved to Canada, and you know, he was hanging around Quebec and stuff like that, and he came back. So he was a little bit more working with Anthony in terms of the in-house side of things. Dave was like, who loves competition. Like, we haven't even mentioned that. Al, the boss of our company, he came second in the world in Copenhagen in 2008. I think so. He loves competition, even though he's extremely busy. He loves it, which is why he's given us the opportunity to do this, because he knows it's a great way to connect and express yourself. So he was like really like, no, if it's in Melbourne, we're pushing super hard this year. And the few years before, particularly with the coffee choices, we were like tasting coffees, and Anthony's like, oh, I really want to serve this. I'm like, I just don't think it was a washed, I think, geisha from Geisha Village. And I'm just like, I love it, but it's not a barista competition coffee. It's too much acidity. There's not enough sweetnesses. So we came up. The one thing was a veto rule. It's like, we have 4 of us now. If 3 out of 4 veto something, it's like
it's out.
That's 3 out of like 4 judges. It's like a veto. So whenever there was a coffee or anything or any decision we had to make, it's like veto rule. And yeah, we had some fights about it, but it just got us to a point where we're like, you can't, if 3 people are disagreeing with you, you're going to get a judge that disagrees with you. So I think that made it a bit cleaner. And then we also had the new coffee, the, you know, Lohas, those Nestelasso and the Omegons, they were just starting to hit Australia. And I think a lot of people thought they were too intense, but, you know, and they were like horribly intense when you roasted them for espresso, but finding that connection, we managed to reduce that down and reduce the acidity, and we had to clean it. So I think just everything was falling into line. Anthony was ready. He was finally ready to deliver a routine, and we really worked on his routine. I think he went to Rimini. And so writing his routine is like, what do you want? The routine came together very well. The coffee came together after a bunch of vetoes very well. Anthony and Jack were supporting each other really well. And yeah, it was definitely Anthony's time. Like, we knew this was the year that he was going to win Australia. We didn't expect the Worlds, but it was, we wanted to do as well as we could, but it was we were so happy to win Australia for the first time in a long time that we were like, hey, everything else is a bonus, and it just kept going and going and going. But we locked in hard. Like, we were in there a lot. I think I locked in really hard on the roasting and just trying to get that coffee perfect. Jack and Anthony were just on systems. It was all systems, which Jack obviously then took onto his own process. And yeah, it was just, that was kind of how it all fell together.
What did it feel like when Anthony's name got called as a coach? I don't know if you're a mentor for him or, I don't know, is he older than you? Is he your big brother? Are you the big brother, or you're the same
I think I'm the big brother. I think I'm older than
him.
Okay.
Yeah, what did that mean for you, and what do you think it mean for him?
I think I was, we were sitting in the stand, like, because we made the top 6, and it was just like, this is incredible, and then we could go, like, obviously we had Morgan, and we were like, this person with 1 million followers, and like, everyone loves her, and like, you know, it was Anthony's first time, so Anthony was like, it's like, who's this guy from Australia sort of thing, it's like, knocking at the door. So we were just like, top 3's, it was like, top 3's great, so, you know, they called the first 3, and you're like, I think I was drinking a beer at the time. Surprise. And it got to it's like, you know, 6th, this 5th, this 4th, and it was like, oh my God, we're top 3. And then they, you know, we're like, top 3's great. And then they call to the 3rd, and you're just like, no, I want to win. We want to win. And it was Anthony and Morgan. And it's always weird when they do that thing where it's like, so, you know, be careful for second place, you know, like, be respectful. And when you hear the Barista Champion from, and that long pause, it's like, because you don't say the Australia. It was the United States. And we were just like, after that I couldn't hear anything. I think the back of my head went numb from like that weird smile crying thing that you do. My beer can went straight up in the air. I don't know where it went. So if I hit someone in the head, I'm sorry. Please, it's just like, and I think Dave and I hugged each other so hard, and yeah, it was, then I started crying. It was like, but just like the blur that happened after you hear and everything else was a blur. And I wanted to run on stage. I know Jonathan ran on stage this year and crash tackled Jack and did a bit of damage, but you want to get there, you want to get to them so quickly, but it's like, then you're just sitting there and you're waiting with all this energy and you want to just hug them, and, you know, just, because there's so much work that goes into it, and you know, it's such a process. But yeah, it was incredible. And yeah, I know you guys have experienced it as well. It's like that pause between first and second is just like, oh.
Yeah, it's tough. It's tough, but also exciting. My heart rate every time there's announcements, like, it gets up to like 170, 175 beats per minute.
Yeah, I think just, you know how they were like doing I think a few people made a joke, how they're like measuring the ins and outs, and they're doing all that kind of stuff, and you can see the shot times and stuff like that, which I think is really cool. I think they should put a heart rate monitor on the coaches.
Yeah.
So when they're like going through, it's like as it goes up and stuff like that, it's like just watching them watch, because like we're sitting there like this, and you see the shot time. That was 26 seconds. And it's just like, and then you can be like, why'd your heart rate spike? It's like, oh well, it just, you know. Just be interesting, because yeah, we go through it in this like quiet chaos sitting there.
And there's a funny thing about coaching is you can impact so much, but when it comes to the actual 15 minutes, you know, you're not on there, so you have some control, but not all of the control, and you gotta kind of live with it or understand that and ride that wave.
Yeah, I think the coach's job, as you're wheeling the trolley down, it's like you get to that final curtain. Like, there's only one person that can do it. So in previous, I think 1 year it was Anthony with Jack. Jack with Anthony. It was my time to do it. I was backstage on this particular one, and that little wheeling down, and you're just trying to keep them calm, trying to like, you know, have you got this? Have you checked? It's like you've done all the prep, and it's like the last little bit is just put them on stage with the sunshine, like give them that energy. And the one thing that kind of made me feel like we had it this year, and it's like, you know, just in terms of energy, was each time we were going down, we were laughing. We were just laughing so hard about like trying to squeeze down the tiny corridor, and, you know, just having a giggle, and, you know, the person trying to help, which is like left, right, but just giggling. And because Jack was giggling, and sometimes he's just like, he's so in his head, but he wasn't. He was there. He was in love, and like Anthony, I think when they were on stage, they were just, when they're in this chill moment, and even if they don't get the prize, like, that means they're perfect, because when they they deliver what they want to deliver, and they put what they want out there, the rest is out of your hands. It's like, so yeah, that's the coach's job. get them to where they need to be, and anything else that happens is beyond our control.
Let's talk a bit about Jack. So the next year you guys run it back as a team Axil, and you got third place. Then you run it back the next year, you get second place. Then you run it back this year. I kind of asked Jack this a little bit last week, but what made you guys continuously go back? What were those conversations like? How hard was it Jack convincing you to do it one more time? Was it you convincing him? Yeah, take us through those kind of emotions.
So particularly, I think right after Worlds, like the energy's palpable, and I kind of feel like, because I think after Worlds for 2022, that was September, and I think the next competition was June in Greece. It was pretty quick. It was a very short window. So I think it kind of felt like Jack was, you're at a restaurant and you ordered the salad, and the guy next to you got the steak, and you're like, I want that. So I think Jack was just kind of like, I want some of that. So yeah, we didn't have a lot of time to write a routine, and it was kind of like switching that mindset from coach to competitor, where it's like, oh, what do you want to talk about? It's like, but he was, in terms of being structurally ready, he was already there because he's just done this whole thing with Anthony. So it was a bit of a plug and play. So I don't know what Jack said, but he went into it, and it's like, yeah, we put together a routine, and coming third in the world was amazing. Like, we had amazing coffees, and we had a lot of like connections that were already there. So we went with what we already had. We didn't have a huge amount of time to explore, and went, great. I think once he had that third bud, he's like, oh, well, of course I'm going to go again. And then we had a whole year and went through the process. So when he went to visit Jonathan and connect, and I think he switched in his brain. He's like, oh, I want to do something deeper. So, looking at the wave machine and like how he's actually making coffee and how he's improving on what he's actually doing. Before it kind of just was like sharing, and then it was, what are you doing? And I'm doing this. This is what I'm doing. This is what I think is improving. This is what I want to share. And then it got to the point where it's like, after second, and a very close second, 1 point. How dare you?
Sorry, man.
That's tight. That's like, even I think when he was second, as soon as someone told Jack it was 1 point, he was just like that's where it's like so much heavier. But you look through the score sheets, it's like there's a million ways they can move. So I know he was hungry, but I think there was a sadness, which I think he represented in his next routine. So it's like, why? And I think that's what he was constantly asking himself. It's like, why? Like, why go again? Like, is there much? And I told him there's not much difference between second and first. It's just how you angle yourself and what you want to focus on. It's like, even if you come first, it's like, what do you want to focus on? You've got a platform. What do you want to do with it? And he was in a why state. It was why. He said he wanted to, but I'm like, no, you don't. Like, because you got to go through all this, and he also wanted to focus on time with his partner and focus on the next thing and focus on that, because once you're in, and it's, especially Jack, he's in. He like trains a lot, and he can't get it out of his brain, and to a point where it's like almost too much. And so you can understand why he didn't want to. But once we went back to Colombia and Panama, and he met with Jamison, who he used the year before, and really connected with him, and then he met back with Jonathan, and they cannot communicate. Jack does not speak Spanish, and Jonathan barely speaks English, but they're like bros. It's and he's connected with their whole family. It's like, it's almost, it made me jealous, but it's like once he had that, it's like, it was just like, I was a little jealous, and having that connection with him and wanting, it's like, why? I want to share their coffees. I want to share more about them. And when we're sitting at the airport in Bruxelles, in that hot, stinky tin shed they call an airport, he was sitting there, he was crying, he was feeling sad, emotional, because he loves these people, and he's like, that's when his why came. It's like, why? I want to represent them. I'm like, how do you want to do it? We'll figure it out. Do you want to do it or not? And he's like, yes. I'm like, I'll support you however you want. And then that's kind of where the journal is like, well, it's like, if you want to share why, like a story, that's where the journals came from, and taking the journals and taking through the days and because that's the reason you got on stage. How do you share it in a way that's congruent with the rules, and not just it wasn't meant to be so soppy, but we got a lot of tears. Yeah. And you could see, that's, I think, how you could tell it was so genuine, because it was the number of times that Jack cried, at the end of that last little point was because it meant so much to him, and it's not something staged. We're like, could you do it less? It's just because that was his why. And I think with anyone, it's like, you should have a why you want to compete, but it's, I think that was his evolution, where if he started with the why, I don't think he would have had, because why do you want to do this? I want to compete. That was his why. Why do you want to do this? I want to share something new. Why do you want to do this? Because it was why. This is why I'm doing it, is because I want to share these connections, sort of thing. Did that answer the question?
It answered, yeah. He said something very similar. You'll have to actually listen to an episode, Matt. That'll be your first episode.
I will. I will like and subscribe.
Yeah. Please download everything. Yeah. Okay, you've got what 10 plus years of coaching knowledge. If you were going to give some advice to a new or seasoned competitor, what would you recommend for them?
New or seasoned? Should I separate?
Let's do seasoned. Let's do seasoned, because
a seasoned competitor is make 100% sure you're not in an echo chamber. Like, don't surround yourself with yes men or men and women. Don't be challenged. Like, the veto rule is one thing. It's like, if we were scared to give honest feedback and we've had fights like about it, if we were scared to give honest feedback, that's only going to be detrimental to the routine. So as a competitor, be prepared for open feedback, but critical feedback, but make sure it's also consolidated together. It's like, you don't need to be like this, just general everything's bad. It's like, no, it's like, let's focus on these key things, because this is where I think we need to improve because of X, Y, and Z. And if you have people who are judges looking at it from a judging perspective, take it on board. So know your why. Have someone support that why, but do not sit in an echo chamber and, this is the greatest, this is the best, everything's the best. It's like, get people in from outside, get people from other countries, get people, it's great in Australia that we have this constant multicultural thing for people from all over who we could, sense check certain things with, but yeah, do not be surrounded by people who just say yes.
That's super important, because a lot of people, they don't have those mechanisms, or they're competing by themselves. They don't have
and that's
put a team together.
No one's saying anything. Sorry to interrupt. I think for a first-time competitor, just do it. Read the rules. Like, as in, if you have someone that can support you, if you can talk to, like, I know as competitors and coaches we're touchy because obviously we're trying to learn, but if you are part of a company and you can be there and just watch and absorb a little bit, that's great. If you can get to the Worlds and if you are in the position of being near the world competition and you can just sit and listen, or even your national competition, that's a great way to take it on board. If you can't compete yet, judge. Get backstage and actually know what they're looking for. Judging is hard. There's a chance you might only get to judge once and then not make it to the semi-finals, but sitting in that room and listening to the feedback and doing practice run-throughs is a great way to start, but just do it. If you don't start, you're not going to get better. And I get performance anxiety and things, and you and I have been talking about making content and stuff like that, and I'm just like, I'm scared. It's like, just make something. Just do it. You're not going to be perfect when you start, but if you don't start, you're not going to be anything. Yeah. So, yeah, you'll get your critical feedback. You'll either want to keep going or you won't want to keep going. Maybe it's not for you. And then just go. And read the rules. Oh my God, read the rules.
Yeah, always read the rules.
Always read the rules.
What can we do as an industry to support the growth of Barista Championships, other coffee championships? Or do we need to grow it at all? Or do we need to grow it?
I think it depends on the country. Like, it sounds like, for example, countries like China, it's going great because they have 80 or 90 competitors in barista each year. I don't even know Brewers Cup. Like I've been pretty strictly in barista. I'd love to learn more about other disciplines, but I never have time. So that's a problem. But I think they have heaps. So I think they're doing an amazing job because, it's a growing community and there's a lot of people. I think in Australia they've reassessed how to go about it, where it's like they've changed the entry level competition to be you can't bring your own stuff. You can't bring your own jugs, you can't bring your own grinder, you can't bring anything. You have to use what's here. Everyone has the same experience. The only thing you bring is the coffee and your skills. So it kind of like levels the playing field for people to come in and start, and then when they get to if they make nationals, then it's like, no, now you take the next preparation step of you got to get your hands on, potentially work with the right machine, work with the right grinders and stuff like that. I think there could be a little more, because I know as a judge they're always like, don't give coaching feedback, don't think this. So maybe if they can reassess the way that the feedback is given from the judges, so that it's like this is what was weak, this is where I was confused, and this is what you did well, this is what didn't go well. Because I do feel like when you come off stage, especially if you don't have a seasoned coach who's just like, oh yeah, you've lost points here, here, and here, this is where you're going to improve. It's like sometimes the feedback is a little like they're trying to protect themselves and they're trying to protect other judges, but it could be better. So maybe they record the deliberation and share the deliberation afterwards, so it's like, this is where, like, look how confused they were about your signature drink ingredients, look how confused they were about your overarching theme. It's like maybe that's a way. Like, I'm just thinking off the top of my head, but I think there's just the feedback so that people can learn a little bit faster, because you have to wait a whole year quite often to get that next bit of feedback, which can be problematic. And I think that's where people lose the love and lose the heart, because I thought it was great, everyone told me it was terrible, they didn't tell me why. So yeah.
Do you think we need more people viewing the actual competition, or is that net?
I think the viewership is, like, I think when people watch the competition, I think the other problem is you don't get to taste what's on the stage, and you don't get to, you're experiencing, and an increase in viewership is great, but I guess maybe with the viewership, could there be an extension to backstage or something like that? So as a barista compete, maybe there's like something that's like every competitor would have to share, tell them a little bit about themselves, their story, their connection, like what they're trying to achieve, that doesn't get shown until after the competitor is finished. So it's like someone views and then they share the story, because we don't want any preconceived ideas about what's going on, or like, judging. But maybe that's a way to be like, I was trying to accomplish this and I'm trying to do this, I'm from here. That little, when you go on those television singing shows where it's like, I'm from rural Australia and I want to be a country singer, like, that's my dream, that's my journey, like something like that. They did one year, but maybe in a formalized thing, it's like to connect because I guess the only people that we connect with sometimes are the top six, because so much is happening, but it's like, from any country, want to connect with their competitor, but only when they make the top six. Like, the top 15 is great, and anyone who makes it should be incredibly proud. The top 6 is where, you do that little deep dive a little bit more into the people. And anyone that makes the top 6 is like, you've done an incredible job, so they should be very, very proud. Maybe even sharing that. And one other thing is, I think there should be a calibration coffee, because whether it's for the top 15 or whether it's for the top 6, to give someone, like, because we've all been training in this and picking coffees and stuff like that, but there is that thing where if everyone had the same coffee, it's like, and you had 20 minutes, like, what do you do with it? Because that's what a barista is deep down. It's like, you got to dial in, and you got customers in the door in 20 minutes, make me the best cup of coffee you can. And I think that would be great, because you could see some people who score really well in the calibration coffee and be like, you're a great barista, but it's like, unfortunately, there's a little bit you need to learn here, or vice versa. I would love to see that, but it's a very difficult competition to run as it is. So I know that nuance.
Another layer would be tough. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Matt, we gotta wrap up here. I'm 15 minutes late for a meeting.
Oh yeah.
Sorry, we didn't quite communicate correctly on the start of this, but that's okay. What's next? You just won the World Barista Champion. You're the roaster for it. You're the coach for Jack. What's 2026?
I've still got to do my green buying. I've still got to manage the roastery and QC here. But in between, I've had some conversations with people about consulting for roasting. I think Jack and I are going to do a talk in Madrid in February. Still got my origin trips. I'll be in Ethiopia and Kenya in early January. I'll be in Central America in late March. Hopefully get to PRF. Hopefully get to SCAA. I have had some chats with competitors about coaching other competitors from around the world thus far. Nothing in concrete, but yeah, I would love to be. I love it. I love it so much. I want to be a part of it more. So yeah, with people, before.
How can they get? People. Yeah. How can they reach out to you? What's a good way to get a hold of the famous Matt Crowley here?
I don't know. Hit the like and subscribe here. No, I don't know. Is that what we do? The little on Instagram. If I guess it's probably at first. You can email me at my work email, which is, should I say it on this? Matt MATTC at axilcoffee.com.au, or Instagram MattEC and MATTY.SEA to play on words. Reach out, whether it's short term or long term. It sounds like I'm going to be all around the world for coffee buying and stuff this year. So if there's a chance to connect, or quick questions or whatever. But I love competition. I love roasting. It's what I do. It's what I do every day. And even the green sourcing or side of it. If when I have a chat, don't spam me with cold calls for buying green, please.
They're coming. They're coming.
I'm sure. But it's what I love. I've honed on in it, and as competition evolves, I want to evolve alongside it. So that's kind of the next year. Sorry, people scroll. But
we'll edit that part out, or maybe we'll keep that part in. What was going on there?
Could you hear the scream?
Yeah.
I have no idea.
Is it like a fire?
No, I think it's like a truck or something. Someone's driving a Tesla with a red P plate, which means they're a loaner driver, basically just got their license, and they are about to crash into someone else's car. That's what's happening.
That was awesome. Yeah, we might not keep that part in. Matt, thanks for taking the time. I gotta have you back on because there's a bunch of stuff we didn't cover, and
I've got to talk about our origin story, where we met.
I know we didn't talk about us meeting in Costa Rica. You came to Calgary. You helped coach Cole in 2019, but we'll save that for. If you like and subscribe, if you listen to one episode, Matt, maybe we can get you back on.
For sure. And thank you for having me. I didn't know if I'd be able to fill an hour, but I love to talk. I appreciate you giving the opportunity to share, and I appreciate you guys always being around. And I think we have similar. Rosso and Axil, and I think you and I and Cole. We have a similar way of looking at this. So whenever we're around each other, I always feel like we're great friends and have a great connection. So it's always good.
Matt, you're a great guy
with you guys.
And hopefully we'll both be on the final stage again. And we're tied now 2-2. So maybe next year we can get ahead. The brothers can get ahead 3-2, and
they should allow for a draw.
Okay, man. Well, thanks for all the info, knowledge,